As Russia violates the most sacred principle of international law, the territorial integrity of a sovereign nation, the role of the International Criminal Court is becoming increasingly critical. Fatou Bensouda is a giant in her field. Born in the Gambia, she's an acclaimed lawyer and has had an extensive and truly remarkable career as an international lawyer. The pinnacle of Fatou's career was being selected by the Assembly of State Parties as the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, which she served from 2012 to 2021. She was the sole African candidate and the first prosecutor in the court's history. As prosecutor, Fatou was the voice for the voiceless, the victims of atrocity crimes. She alone dramatically expanded the number of the court's investigations and preliminary examinations. But in addition to all of that, she did something extraordinary. She prosecuted traditionally less focused crimes, such as sexual and gender-based crimes, crimes against children, and the destruction of cultural heritage as per the Rome Statute. And Fatou's time in the office was not without significant challenges. Notably, in 2020, US President at that time, Donald Trump, issued an executive order declaring a national emergency and authorizing assets to be frozen, not only against her, but all family members and a ban of travel for the court's personnel. You simply cannot make that up. The U.S. imposed direct sanctions against Fatou, but she was not deterred. In her own words, she said this: "Something I've experienced is pressure, attacks, and politicalization. But what we do in office is critically important. History will judge us." Fatou has rightly received numerous awards and accolades, too many to list tonight, but perhaps the most prestigious until tonight's award was in 2021, her office was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. And finally, on a personal note, Fatou, as a prosecutor, always had time for civil society. I lost count of the number of meetings I had with her, always gracious, always open to new ideas, even when I had criticisms. And each time I left her office, I said to myself, how fortunate we are to have her in that position. She personifies the very best of the legal profession. Please join me in acknowledging Fatou Bensouda as the 2022 Magnitsky Human Rights Awardee for Outstanding Lawyer.
The Hermitage Capital Management, distinguished members of the jury, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, fellow awardees, dear friends and colleagues, allow me at the outset to express my most sincere gratitude to the Hermitage Capital Management for hosting the Sergei Magnitsky Human Rights Award and for their generous recognition of my work through this award, Outstanding Lawyer Award. I am sincerely touched and honored that the prominent people, such as Mr. William Browder, who founded and make up this impressive group, has considered me worthy of this prestigious award. I'm also grateful to the members of the jury for finding me fitting of this award and for selecting me to receive it. I accept this honor as a recognition not of my humble achievements, but rather of the importance and the promise of international criminal justice for a more just and peaceful world in this new century, and the crucially important role that we all have and must continue to play towards these necessary goals. Goals indeed rendered all the more pressing as we lay witness to great human suffering around the world today, from west to east and north and south. Ladies and gentlemen, one cannot remain silent and indifferent in the face of atrocities. Never again, regrettably, continues to ring hollow in so many conflicts. We don't seem to learn the lessons of the past and continue to allow unbridled violence to cause great human suffering. As the former prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, I have done my best and will continue to do whatever I can to help restore dignity to the shattered lives of the survivors of atrocities. I have been witness to the consequences of armed conflict on the lives of women and girls, in particular. In the courage and dignity of victims and survivors, I have seen human nature at its best. And in the sheer brutality of crimes against them, I have seen it at its very worst. Sexual and gender-based crimes, violence, is sadly characteristic of so many conflicts, often perpetrated as a deliberate weapon of war or repression. We see this obscene reality in too many conflicts we are witnessing today. Women and girls are often doubly victimized. Not only do combatants see their bodies as legitimate battlefields, but their own communities then reject and ostracize them for what they have endured. We must do better. Our civilization must do better. How can it be that we continue to witness such beastly violence and inhumanity in the so-called modern age, when we pride ourselves for the progress humanity has made in so many areas, and yet our propensity towards violence against our fellow human beings remains cruel and unchanged, and even more destructive with modern weaponry? Dear friends, the era of impunity for atrocity crimes must belong to the dustbins of history. While the challenges are many, with strong, consistent, and vocal support of all those dedicated to advancing the international rule of law, I am confident progress can be made. And here again, I would like to emphasize the importance of women empowerment and women leadership. Having more women leaders effectively means increasing the representation of important groups of human society that have historically been marginalized and silenced. It means that a group that has rarely made decisions that have led to violence finally has a voice at the negotiating table. Women leaders have a crucial and powerful perspective to bring to the table in leading the fight against violence. We need to increasingly amplify women's voices and ensure they are in positions of power and decision-making. I truly believe this can make a positive difference. Dear friends and colleagues, let me also emphasize that seldom have major advances in human progress traveled the path of least resistance. The fight against impunity will have its successes, it will have its challenges. Some 10 years ago, when I assumed office as the first woman prosecutor of the ICC, I stated that real justice is not a pick-and-choose system. And that to be effective, to be just, and to be a real deterrent, the Office of the Prosecutor's activities and decisions must be based solely on the law and the evidence. The court may operate in a political environment, but its work must be shielded and free from the winds and whims of politics when those strengths are not aligned with our collective obligations under the Rome Statute. And during my tenure, I did my utmost to live by these convictions in the service of the Rome Statute. I strove throughout my term to honorably and with integrity discharge a complex, multifaceted mandate with independence and impartiality, and without fear or favor. I sought to focus on the words, not to focus on the words and propaganda of a few influential individuals whose aim is to evade justice, but rather to listen to the millions of victims who look to the court as a beacon of hope, as the last bastion of justice and accountability for atrocity crimes, where the law, their protector, had otherwise fallen silent. We must remain vigilant to ensure that international criminal justice remains principled and objective and is not co-opted as a convenient instrument in the service of politics. That is the only way to ensure international criminal justice can contribute to the progress of humanity and a higher civilization for future generations. For me, it was critical to continue to stand firm in our resolve and speak with one voice that the commission of mass atrocities as merely politics by other means will no longer receive a pass, and that the perpetrators, irrespective of their rank or official status, must answer for their crimes. We must continue to work for the victims of atrocity crimes who look to the court as the last beacon of hope. Its defense must indeed be equally strong, if not stronger, even when the court's activities might not always be politically convenient. This is, after all, at the heart of why the court was originally founded, that atrocities that shock the collective conscience must be subjected to the power of the law and legal scrutiny. For the sake of victims of atrocity crimes, we must not lose the progress made towards the culture of accountability as an essential pillar of a rule-based multilateral order. We cannot undo the suffering of the past or the horrors of history, but we must have a joint responsibility not to repeat them. International justice, as well as international human rights law, have thrived in the second century. To be clear, mass crimes still occur far too frequently, and indeed, the International Criminal Court is a direct answer to the continued commissions of atrocities and violations of human rights throughout the world. Nevertheless, and this is very important in my view, the paradigm has shifted. It has become universally accepted that all human beings have inherent rights and dignity. It came to be universally believed that the human rights and dignity of each one of us must be protected for the dignity of that individual, but also for the good of all. In our times, humanity no longer accepts that victims of gross human rights violations suffer in silence. We, as peoples and nations of the world, embrace the notion that no longer should the perpetrators of the world's most heinous crimes be allowed to escape justice. Such a powerful idea. This is the world I believe in, and it's one in which many of you today also believe in. Yet, ladies and gentlemen, today we are facing immense challenges. Dark forces and extremism aim to divide our societies and our resolve to live up to the promises of accountability and human rights and dignity for all. Human rights and the fight against impunity are under a unique attack. Our new century has already seen countless destabilizing conflicts around the world, resulting in great losses in innocent blood and national treasure. Regrettably, each year, countless children, women and men are either affected or they fall victim to unimaginable atrocities and extremism. Grave crimes in many conflicts around the world shock our collective conscience and threaten the peace, the security, and the well-being of the world. And today, it is thus more important than ever that we curb the destructive impact of conflicts and rising extremism on civilians. Today, it is more important than ever that we stand up against the erosion of human rights. Today, it is more important than ever that we do not cave in to the pressures of state power plays and realpolitik that aim to do away with international criminal justice. Today, it is more important than ever that we do all we can to ensure that security, stability, and the protective embrace of the law become a reality to be relished by all in all corners of the world. Under the critical watch of history, we must not allow, never again, to ring hollow to taunt the memory of the victims of atrocity crimes. We owe it to ourselves, to our children, and the future generations to nurture the international criminal justice projects and human rights. Ending impunity and bringing justice to victims of atrocity crimes are not the preserve of any one institution. It is a common goal and aspirations that tie us all together in our shared quest for justice, peace, and stability. Only together will we achieve what we have set out to do and create a culture of accountability. I've been too long, but before I close, allow me to acknowledge and appreciate the support of my husband, who is present with us, and my family, as well as the staff of the ICC with whom I worked with, who were by my side throughout. I am equally grateful to my Deputy Head of Mission, who is also present here today, and the staff, my entire staff at the Gambia High Commission. I thank you for the gift of your listening, your time, but I thank you very much for this prestigious honor.